Hi everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I've got a sweet little card project that was created using the Gina Designs Wreath Builder template / stencil. I have not used my Wreath Builder in a while, and I thought to myself, I want to try it with some different stamps that maybe weren't designed specifically for the Wreath Builder. This is a really fun way to get more use out of your small stamps. So let's jump in and take a look at the products I'm using today. This stamp set came in Gina's A Big Hello card kit, and I will link to some other projects that I've done using different products from this particular kit, but I loved this little set, lots of cute images and sentiments, and I thought it would be perfect for the Wreath Builder. For cardstock, I've got a little Neenah Solar White and some Fog from Simon, and here is the Wreath Builder template. Now I'm going to be using the larger of the two that come in the set. And this one is designed for a 4-inch square panel of cardstock. I've also got some of Gina's embossing powder, ink, some crystalline drops, and a whole slew of Copic markers to create a rainbow. And of course, I will have everything listed below the video. To use the Wreath Builder stencil, you will need to have some sort of stamp positioner, and I'm using the original size MISTI tool. I like to tape it down into the actual MISTI, and this is a little tip that I learned from Gina, just because you don't want the stencil to move at all. The magnet can hold your paper down. So I'm going to take my 4-inch square of cardstock and place it right in the stencil like this, making sure that it's completely lined up, and then I'm going to pop the magnet on just to hold it. I'll grab this cute little guy here, take it off the backer, and place it right about so. Then I'll pick this up with the door, lift the stamp up, reposition the paper just to make sure it's all in the right place. And then I'm going to grab my Gina K Amalgam ink cube. Now I'm using the Amalgam ink because it is a Copic friendly ink, and I will be using Copic markers today. So ink up the stamp, press down, and you have your first image. Then you pick up your paper, turn it one turn, replace into the stencil, and repeat the process. Ink up your stamp and stamp it. And here's the thing, you can play around with all sorts of stamps that you have. Now it just so happened, because I was playing with this and realized that if I line it up just so, it creates a chain of envelopes on a string, and I thought that was really cute. So I'm going to speed this up and just continue the process. Inking, stamping, picking up the paper and turning it, and repeat. Now I use the magnet oftentimes when I'm doing it, but you don't necessarily have to. You just do what feels right. This felt right to me to keep putting the magnet down, but I love seeing the little wreath appear. And that's the thing that's cool. This is a wreath of envelopes. You know, this isn't really your classic wreath, but I thought once it was all done, I really liked having a chain of heart envelopes that were all connected in a perfect circle. Looks pretty good. All right, let's move on. Now to color. But before we start, I want to show you something. So I have my Copic sketch markers, and they're all well and good, and that big brush tip messes me up 9 times out of 10. So what I have been doing is replacing the chisel nib with this Sketch Fine nib. You can buy them as replacements. I have no need for a chisel, but the pointy, hard Sketch Fine nib, this for me has been a game changer in terms of staying in the lines. Now I'm getting a little older here. Well, I need a new prescription for my glasses. Well, I'm getting old. Well, both things are happening, but I can't see what I'm doing half the time. And the brush tip, 9 out of 10 times I go outside of the lines and then I get frustrated, and usually that happens right towards the end of a project. So these little Sketch Fine nibs have been game-changing for me in terms of my confidence with Copic coloring. Now here on the yellows, I didn't really have great contrast between the two that I had chosen, so I brought in an older Chow marker, and then I knew, gonna have to use that brush tip, so I kind of held my breath, because the brush tips are wonderful for larger spaces, but for me personally, smaller spaces and that brush, that is it's a disaster waiting to happen. So I'm just continuing on adding my colors, and I don't have a set color palette that I go to. A lot of times I pull markers. I do have actually a swatch ring that I have created, and I'll actually put a link to that video as well, because that has been really helpful for me in terms of just looking at my Copic colors, comparing them and saying, I wonder if these two will work together. So I sort of go by gut. I always do some tests on scrap cardstock until I'm sure that, well, I guess this will work, and then proceed. I actually thought this blue was going to be a disaster because the first blue was so dark, but I ended up really liking that combo. I was surprised that how dark it was actually turned out to look good, but where the problems started for this card project, and of course it would be on the very last heart, I started to put down the purple and I realized I grabbed the darker purple, not the lighter, and I glanced at it and I'm like, all right, Kath, you're gonna go with this. You're gonna go with this and you're gonna make it work. Little did I know that it was actually going to make it worse, because I grabbed the lighter one and started coloring and realized, oh, right, lighter colors erase darker colors, so I came back in with the darker, and what happened was it got so juicy and wet that it started to feather and fade outside of the parameter. Enter the savior of the day, the colorless blender. Now I put a fine sketch tip on this as well, just to have a little more control. But here's the beauty of the colorless blender. It really does work like an eraser. It lifts the ink, and it took me about 5 complete go-rounds, both with the fine tip and the brush tip, of pushing that ink, if you will, really saturating the paper until it started to completely lift the purple. And you can kind of see that halo of white. I had to push into the actual stamped image itself to really get this done, but I was determined. I was not starting over with this project. And you know what? It actually ended up working. Once it dried, we were good to go. So I took the little bit of lighter purple and just kind of colored in to sort of salvage this. And I thought to myself, good enough. Now for a last little thing that I thought would look good, I took a light gray, I think this is T0, and just decided to add a little bit of shadowing and shading to the left lower corner of each little envelope, because I thought it would match the shading on the hearts. Super simple, and it doesn't even show up that much, but it's subtle, and I like subtle. Next, it's time to stamp the sentiment. There's a cute little sentiment in this set that says signed, sealed, delivered. So I got my embossing magic out. I'm going to remove all of the static or oil from the cardstock, just because I want to make sure when I stamp down my sticky embossing ink that my embossing powder only sticks to the stamped image. And this cardstock is Onyx Black from Gina K Designs. Stamping that down, and then I'll take some of Gina's fine detail white powder, sprinkle it on, tap that off, give it one more coating just to make sure we've got a beautiful coating of powder, and tap off the excess. Then I'll get my heat tool nice and hot, bring it to the cardstock, and quickly melt the powder. Once that's done, we have a beautiful little sentiment, and I'll use a little circle die and run that through my die cut machine to quickly cut out a lovely circle. Signed, sealed, delivered. My card base is going to be a little 4 1/4 inch square. So I've got a piece of 8 1/2 by 4 1/4 that I scored at 4 1/4. And I'm going to press this down, but I also take a little purple tape. I like my card bases to stay completely flat while I am assembling the elements. So I'll just put that in there and tape that closed. I've got some foam tape on the back of my panel so that I can pop that up on the card base. And I really like how there's about 1/8 of an inch of gray showing through. Looks good. And then I've got a little bit of foam tape on the back of the circle sentiment. I'm going to pop that up as well. Now this could have been finished, but I thought it would be fun to stretch my creative muscle with some crystalline drops from Gina K Designs. This is a new product to me. It adds shine, and when it dries clear. So I worked my way around slowly, and I really did think I was going to have to stomp and adjust. I have a toothpick there that I was going to use to help pop bubbles and, you know, just make up for any errors, but it actually went off without a hitch. And I did it without making a mistake. And here's the thing, see that purple heart that caused me all that grief? Doesn't even matter. Once you get the drops on, it's good to go. Now it's a little cloudy, but here's what it looks like when it dries. I did one earlier, and you can see it dries clear and it adds this wonderful shine and a little bit of dimension. So it's a very simple design, but just a little touch like that kind of kicks it up just a little bit. I encourage you to check out Gina's Wreath Builder stencil templates if you don't already have them. And if you do already have them, bust out some other stamps from your collections and see what kinds of other wreaths you can create. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.